Here is the breaking news. The headline over at TPM, Talking Points Memo. In closed-door meetings, Senate decides no hearing for any Obama Supreme Court nominee. No hearing. Now, if they wanted to do this in a way that at least had some patina of respectability, all they would have to do is hold the hearing and then vote no. They control the Senate. But, and under the rules of the Senate, I believe it takes 2/3 of the senators to confirm a Supreme Court nominee. Not in the Constitution, but it's in the rules of the Senate. But, but they're not even going to hold a hearing. This, in my opinion, I want to get into President Obama and Gitmo too, because the speech he gave this morning. But this didn't just come out of nowhere. This didn't just happen. The night that President Obama was inaugurated, a group of Republicans met right here in Washington, D.C., about 10 blocks from where I'm sitting, down at the corner of 9th Street and D Northwest at the Caucus Room Restaurant in a private room in the back. January 20th, 2009, 14 Republicans, along with Frank Luntz and Newt Gingrich. The Republican list included Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, Kevin McCarthy, Pete Sessions, Jeb Hensarling, Pete Hoekstra, Dan Lundgren. These are all members of the House. And the following senators: Jim DeMint, John Kyle, Tom Coburn, John Ensign, and Bob Corker. And apparently from the reports that we're reading and from actually several books now that have been written about this, but mostly Robert Draper's book, When the Tea Party Came to Town. The question before these Republicans was, what are we going to do with America's first black president? America was losing 750,000 jobs a month at that moment in time. We were on the brink of a Great Depression. And what they were looking at was, if we can pin this depression on Obama instead of Bush, if we can extend it and make it worse for a couple of years, then 4 years down the road in the next presidential election cycle, we will easily take the White House. This is going to be a replay of 1929, when Herbert Hoover was the Republican president. The great crash happened. It got worse in 1930. It got even worse than that in 31. And it got even worse than that in 32. And what did the American people do? They said, we want the other party. Enough of these Republicans. We want Democrats. And so these guys are meeting the night that Obama's being inaugurated, as the world is sliding into the second Great Depression of, in the last 100 years, trying to figure out how to make America hurt so that they can make political hay out of it. Pete Sessions came out of that meeting saying, as he noted in March of 2009 with the National Review, or a National Journal, excuse me, that they were going to use the Taliban as their model, an insurgency. In other words, just fight them on every front, blow up everything. Whether it's a suicide bomb or an IED, we're going to take down this president. Here's his actual words, as reported by National Journal. He's a Taliban insurgency. We understand perhaps a little bit more because of the Taliban. Insurgency is the way they went about systematically understanding how to disrupt and change a person's entire processes. And these Taliban, this is an example of how you go about to change a person from their messaging all the way to their operations to their frontline message. And we need to understand that insurgency may be required when dealing with the other side. He went on to say, if Democrats don't give us those options or opportunities, then we will become insurgency. I think insurgency is a mindset and an attitude that we're going to have to search for and find ways to get our message out and to be prepared to see things for what they are rather than trying to do something about them. Kevin McCarthy, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, who's now the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives, was at the meeting. He said, we got to challenge them on every single bill. Show united and unyielding opposition to the president's economic policies. Now, keep in mind, these were the economic policies that would get us out of the Great Depression. So here's Kevin McCarthy essentially saying, we want America to be in pain because then Americans will reject our first black president. These, by the way, were the same guys who said yes to the January 2008 stimulus that Bush Cheney proposed. They said yes to Bush Cheney bailing out Bear Stearns. They said yes to Bush Cheney bailing out AIG. They said yes to the Bush Cheney September 2008 TARP, and they said yes to the Bush Cheney 2008 TARP. There's a great diary about this by Keep 'Em Honest from Friday, June 8th, 2012. Titled Eric Cantor, Paul Ryan, and Kevin McCarthy plot to sabotage U.S. economy with Frank Luntz over at Daily Kos. They supported Bush and Cheney in keeping the cost of the two wars off the budget so it wouldn't look like Bush had run up a huge deficit. That showed up on the budget during the Obama presidency. They supported Bush Cheney spending $4 trillion while giving the top 1% massive tax cuts. Senators Jim DeMint, John Kyle, Tom Coburn, John Ensign, and Bob Corker, the senators who were there, have, now this was as of, just like 2 years later, filibustered more than 300 pieces of legislation, more than any Congress in American history. They voted no on every single piece of legislation brought to the floor, including no on Al Franken's anti-rape amendment. No on Lilly Ledbetter. No on Fair Pay Act. No on an anti-outsourcing bill. The members of Congress, Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, Kevin McCarthy, Representative Pete Sessions, Jeb Hensarling, P. Hoekstra, and Dan Lundgren have voted no on every single piece of legislation, including no on increasing funding for FEMA during natural disasters. And it goes on and on and on. Well, so that was the caucus room conspiracy. What followed the caucus room conspiracy was the meeting at the Koch brothers. And this is this is from Jane Mayer's book, Dark Money. She writes, the highlight of the Koch summit in 2009, again, this is, right just months after President Obama had been sworn in, was an uninhibited debate about what conservatives should do next in the face of their electoral defeat. As the donors and other guests dined in the hotel's banquet room like Roman senators attending a gladiator duel in the Forum, they watched a passionate argument unfold that encapsulated the stark choice ahead. And basically, it was John Cornyn versus Jim DeMint. And Jim DeMint argued that they should obstruct absolutely everything Obama wanted. Just say no to everything. And John Cornyn, the Republican senator from Texas, said, no, we should go along with him on the things that we actually think are good ideas and fight him on the things that we think are bad ideas. And Jim DeMint said in front of this room full of billionaires, the Koch brothers sponsoring this debate, said, no, we need to fight him on everything, period. Give him no quarter. Give him a failed presidency. And Jim DeMint won the debate. The billionaires all applauded Jim DeMint, not John Cornyn. Not all of them, I'm assuming. But Jane Mayer documents the whole thing in her book, Dark Money. You can easily read it. This is sedition. This is, if not legally, certainly morally treason. And now they're saying they're not even going to hold a hearing on President Obama's Supreme Court nominee? Really?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, you have to know that they're thinking, hey, this is really going to jack up the Republican base, particularly in the South, where the white racists hate Obama. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.